This is Francesco Abbruzzino with the Uncensored Report. We want to talk a little bit about these people you're seeing on the screen, the ones that are triggered, the social justice warriors, the cupcakes, the snowflakes, whatever they're being called now, and how these colleges, these institutions of higher learning are basically educating these individuals to go out and act like lunatics, act like fascists in a lot of cases if they don't get their way. You got these higher learning, and I love saying the higher learning. Is it really that much higher of a learning? A lot of these schools are considered prestigious institutions in the world that we send our kids off to, we send our youth off to, thinking they're getting a relevant education outside of a lot of the social aspects of it. They come back though. And what they do is they live in these festering cauldrons of victimhood there, where they become mentally unstable. A lot of these colleges have psychiatrists on hand, and they're just popping the pills out, handing the pills out everywhere. They go through 4 years of progressive indoctrination and fascist violence. And I say that, and I'm going to give it a reasoning behind it in a minute. And these kids are essentially inmates. They're inmates to these higher institutions. And I say that all the time. I wrote a few articles. I don't write too many articles anymore, but it was about public schools and how I went up here locally and I looked and I had an issue, and it was like I was going into a prison system. How the kids were being treated like inmates as they were being indoctrinated into this social structure, this the norms, how the school and how the government wants them to act. They became these zombies, if you will. And you see this when you go out to these asylums. And you don't have to look too far outside of this one, Evergreen. And I was reading this article, brought up Evergreen. Again, it covers a lot of this stuff. And Evergreen, I've posted about it before. And this is at school, if you remember. They had individuals. They wanted the people to learn and understand the plight of living in a white-dominated world. So the college said, hey, we're going to institute a day of absence here. And basically, the black students got to leave, and it showed basically what they hoped that the students, the white students, would learn that they're racist and that black students' lives matter. And this year, they wanted to change it up a little bit, though. They wanted to do black students could stay on campus, and instead of them leaving, they wanted the students that are white and the faculty be invited to stay off campus and just leave. And this professor there is like, are you guys crazy? What is going on to this? This is asinine. Why are we doing this? He said it's crippling the logic out there. It's oppression. And he went into this whole thing and this diatribe in the email. And basically, that's when all hell just broke loose. Because you can't do that. You can't say that about African Americans or any other person out there without all hell breaking loose. So it did. And in this, because of this email, he was basically accosted outside his classroom. He had all these social justice warrior snowflakes out there upset. They were cursing at him. They were screaming at him. They were making threats against him. They were calling him a racist. They were demanding that the guy resign, all because he sent out an email saying, this is foolish that we do this stuff. Why are we doing it? And essentially, him and his family had to go into hiding. And that was because this institution of higher learning wasn't helping them. And it's spinning out of control. You got these self-proclaimed anti-fascists out there. And they proclaim to be anti-fascists, but they're actually fascists. You know, they get out there, they'll throw rocks, bricks, knives, everything. If you look at the arrest reports, they're arresting all these guys dressed in guys and gals in black. Look no further than what Milo went through at UC Berkeley. Actually, he didn't go through it. He ended up canceling it. But his supporters went through it. I saw a lady just getting beat up by these thuggish individuals. And that's become the norm on a lot of these college campuses. These progressive protesters, they get out there. They don't want you to speak. They don't want to have a debate. They don't want to discuss something because they'll know they'll lose. So instead, they try to silence you. They try to protest. They say, well, all hell will break loose if you allow this person there. They burn fires. They break windows. They destroy buildings. They threaten bystanders. They beat up young ladies. And they can do this because the police, as we saw at Berkeley, are in stand-down mode. And you see this at many campuses. They just stand there as properties being destroyed, as people are being assaulted. And that they allow these precious little snowflakes, these social justice warriors, to have this meltdown. And they're having this meltdown because there is no safe space. They're used to getting their pills. They're used to getting their safe space. And when you don't have that, they lose it. They go out of control. They don't know what to do. Just like you're seeing in this video on the screen. They lose their minds. They start to spew all kinds of hateful rhetoric. And to them, it's okay because you have a lot of the leaders out there saying it's all right. For gosh sakes, this tragic event that happened yesterday. You got people like Pelosi, who's the leader of the Democratic Party, out there saying people must die. She was actually quoted saying that. A lot of them have been saying that. Elizabeth Warren, people must die. Who else? Huffington Post is out there saying it. And a lot of these social justice warriors are saying, oh, it's time to take up arms. It's time to shut down opposing opinions. It's time for me to have a meltdown. And it's not just Berkeley. It's happened at a few colleges, Claremont, Middlebury College, several colleges where these kids are out of control. Chicago, Corey Limbowski, they shut his down. All over speech because they didn't want to hear something that was not in line with their train of thought. And this article I was reading just said how ironic it is because you've got these progressive activists from the 60s. They went in, they infiltrated these higher learning institutions. Now they're the professors, the administrators. They're out there stoking this culture of victimhood, urging students to go out and fight back against this so-called oppression that they view out there, against the patriarchal establishment. And they are doing it through violence. And isn't it ironic that now they're finding themselves the victim of this hatred, the violence that they have sown? And when will it end? You know, when we send our kids to college, we don't send them there to go through all this social justice stuff. We want them to get educated, go out and get a better job. But they're turning into indoctrination centers. They're not turning, they have been. And it's for the worse. And it's creating this triggered mentality that we're seeing on the screen. And it's very unfortunate. What say you? This has been Francesco Abbruzzino with the Uncensored Report.